the Psalm of the Immovable Heart, a lament addressed to the living God, by John, the heavy metal prophet, for the watered stone, for the fed fire, for the ones still trying to pour themselves into vessels that were shattered before they were born, for everyone who opened a door and found a wall, for everyone who loved the thing that was eating them. I, the gate, Lord, I need to talk to you. I don't come with eloquence tonight. I come with ashes and cracked hands and the kind of fatigue that doesn't come from the body, though the body is tired too, Lord. Make no mistake about that. My back remembers every box I've lifted, every pallet I've stacked, every shift where I showed up and did the work, because the work is the only thing that doesn't lie to me about what it is. The salt from my own sweat has worked into the fissures in my palms until the burning stopped being pain and became architecture, something I built a life around, a room I know by touch in the dark, the ache, the familiar ache. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because of the other thing, the thing I can't fix with my hands. I have seen the proud, God. I have watched them move through the corridors of this world like something exempt from the basic physics of consequence, like the juggernaut from the old Hindu stories, the enormous cart that rolls through the streets and does not hear the bones beneath its wheels, not because it's cruel, because the mass of its own momentum has made it deaf to anything that isn't itself. It doesn't smell the blood. It doesn't register the texture of the life it just undid. It rolls because rolling is what it does, and the sun of its own glory has blinded it so completely to the road that it crosses over every small and sacred thing without a pause, without a flinch, without even the faintest tremble of the word stop. And it does not stop. It does not stop. I understand where I am, Lord. I'm standing at the gate of something, and the inscription doesn't say abandon hope. It says something worse. It says, this place was made by love, not by your cruelty, not by your vengeance, by the love that was offered and offered and offered again and returned each time unopened. And the empty space left behind by that returning is the gate, is the wall, is the city of grief I'm walking into. Because the hell the proud have built for themselves isn't a punishment you imposed. It's the vacuum created when love is refused for so long that the air itself forgets what warmth felt like. To the bafflement, you know them, Lord. You knew them before time started counting. You built them nerve by nerve, synapse by synapse, and you made them good. I know you did. I know it the way I know my own name. And I would trade everything I own, everything I've earned, everything I've survived, to understand how something you constructed with that kind of precision can harden into a surface that will not accept a single kindness offered free. I've watched it, Lord. I've stood in front of people and extended my hand with nothing hidden in it, no agenda, no angle, no transaction, just a hand, just the offer, just the simple human gesture of here, let me help. And I watched them recoil, not from me, from the help itself, as if receiving something for free was an admission of weakness, as if being loved was the same as being diminished, as if the chain they forged inside their own skulls, the hierarchy that explains why they deserve the top and everyone else deserves the floor, would shatter if they let a single act of grace in without a receipt attached to it. I've knocked on that door, God. I've knocked until my knuckles split and bled, and I can show you the scars. They're right here, written in the skin, one for every conversation where I brought the key and held it up to the lock and discovered the lock wasn't a lock anymore. It was a rock. It was a stone where a door used to be, smooth, seamless, perfect in its refusal. Not a crack, not a finger hole, not a seam where light could get through to whatever's left of the person who used to live in there before the pride moved in like a tenant who doesn't pay rent and doesn't leave and eventually starts bricking up the windows. What do I do, God? I'm asking you directly. What do I do? Through the watered stone I water them, Lord, and the water rolls off. It runs off the surface of their souls like rain off a copper plate, doesn't sink, doesn't seep, just gathers at the edge and slides off to nowhere. And the root I'm trying to reach, that buried, living thing you planted in them the day they took their first breath, stays dry, stays hard, would rather die than drink from a hand that isn't its own. The garden of their life has turned into something I barely recognize, magnificent disguise, painted leaves that look alive until you touch them, and they crumble like paper flowers in a room where someone died. They've built a paradise and they've built a tomb, and they cannot tell the difference, Lord, because the difference is the sword they sheathed inside themselves so long ago that the handle has fused to their rib cage, and the slow corrosion of the blade has been mistaken for a backbone. And this is the contrapasso. This is Dante's architecture. The punishment isn't imposed from the outside. They built it themselves. They installed the sword. They laid the bricks. Every grace they turned away became another brick in the wall. They're now sealed inside. And the pride that cemented the last one into place is the same pride that tells them they're free. The prison guard and the prisoner are the same person. The sentence is the sin. And they're sitting on a throne in a kingdom of one crown, one scepter, no subjects, no visitors, no one. And they call it sovereignty. How do I tell a man his spine is a sword? How do I tell him his crown is a cage? How do I say it in a way he can hear when the very organ he'd need to hear it with has been walled off? For the giants, I think about Enoch's giants, and something in me goes cold. Those things from the old texts, the Nephilim, the offspring of the Watchers, who didn't pretend about their appetite. They ate the world in stages. First the livestock, then the crops, then the men. And when there was nothing left outside to consume, they turned on each other. And when there was nothing left of each other, they ate themselves. The victory parade became a funeral, and the sound of it was teeth on bone, and the bone was their own. I see it happening, Lord, not in mythology, here, in the cubicles, in the conference rooms, in the churches, in the skulls of men and women who devour the trust of everyone who gets close enough to feed them. They consume the loyalty of the people who love them the hardest, and for their trouble, those people get the teeth. Every time, they always get the teeth. And here's where it crosses from theology into something Clive Barker would recognize, the body horror of it, because the proud didn't catch this like a cold. They didn't wake up one morning with symptoms. The disease rewrote their flesh. I mean that literally, Lord, the neural pathways, the reflexive responses, the way their nervous system processes input. They flinch from tenderness the way a hand jerks back from a hot stove. Vulnerability registers in their body as a physical threat. An open hand reads as a clenched fist. The flesh itself has been reprogrammed to reject love as a hostile incursion. This isn't a metaphor. This is the architecture of the thing. The puzzle box from Hellraiser, solved with desire, opened with the self pressed against the self. And on the other side, a kingdom of the self so total and so closed that the ones who opened it don't even remember choosing it. The puzzle box is part of them now. The original warmth, the human fire you lit in them at birth, has been transformed into a cold burning, a burning that illuminates nothing. That warms no one. That exists only to consume the fuel of its own room until there's nothing left but the consuming. The protocol, but Lord, and I need you to hear this part closely because this is where the floor drops out. It's not just the powerful. It's not just the executives and the pastors and the politicians. It's everyone. This is the thing that broke me, God. This is the revelation that cracked the foundation of how I understood the world and left me in free fall. I have been given eyes I didn't ask for. Lenses I can't take off, and what I see through them, what I see in every interaction, every transaction, every handshake, every good morning in the break room, is the machinery running underneath. You ever see they live? John Carpenter, 1988 guy, finds a pair of sunglasses in an alley and puts them on, and suddenly every billboard, every magazine, every television screen is revealed for what it actually says underneath the advertisement. Obey, consume, conform, stay asleep. And the faces of the people in power aren't human faces anymore. They're something else, something wearing the human face as a costume. And there's that scene, 6 straight minutes of 2 men beating each other half to death in an alley. And the fight isn't about machismo. It's about the glasses. One man is trying to force the other to put them on and see. And the other man would rather fight to the death than look. That's me, Lord. I'm the guy with the glasses. And I can't take them off. And everywhere I go, every face I meet, I watch the protocol activate behind their eyes. The same subroutine, the same sequence. Every time. First they weigh me. I can feel it, the calculation running before my name even registers. They're scanning. What's he worth? What's his utility? Is he an asset, an obstacle, or irrelevant? Then they measure. Am I above them or below? Competition or furniture? Does my presence threaten the position they've clawed their way into? Then they assume. And this is the part that gets me. God, the verdict lands before I've finished my first sentence. They've already filed me, useful or disposable. The evidence is the dirt on my shoes, the accent in my voice, the job title, the car. The trial lasted a quarter of a second, and I was never called to testify. Then they engage, but not to connect, to acquire. The questions aren't questions. They're sonar. They're mapping my vulnerabilities, charting the depth of my openness, finding the soft places where I'd be inclined to trust, to give, to pour myself out the way I was designed, to pour myself out. And then they weaponize what I gave them. The thing I said in confidence becomes ammunition. The wound I showed them in good faith becomes the knife they use when it's convenient. The trust one offered like bread, believing I was at a table where two human beings were actually meeting, turns out to have been an intelligence gathering operation, and I was the asset, and the extraction is complete, and they walk away and don't even know they did it. Talk to them the next day, and they're friendly. They wave. They genuinely don't understand why I'm standing in the grave they dug with information I handed them voluntarily. The protocol. It does not vary. It does not stall. It runs on every operating system, every soul, every role a human being plays from the cradle to the grave. Weigh, measure, size up, assume, engage, extract, weaponize, discard. And they call it wisdom. They call it discernment. They call it street smarts. And love, the real thing, Lord, the wine you poured at creation becomes impossible. A signal no one's receiver can pick up. A frequency below the threshold of ears that have been tuned to hear nothing but the pitch of mine, mine, mine. 6. The house. Now we get to the part one don't want to talk about. But the Zerga protocol doesn't allow me to not talk about it, so here it is. The protocol wasn't something that happened to me out in the world. It was in the house. It was in the family. It was at the kitchen table at Christmas, at every dinner where the food was on the plates, and the words coming out of mouths were shaped like love, but the eyes, Lord, the eyes were running calculations. The hand on my shoulder wasn't comfort, it was surveying, measuring what I could provide to the architecture of someone else's self-regard. That's the Wes Craven part, God, the horror inside the house. The rules all said I'd be safe there. Don't go outside at night, stay with your people. Blood is thicker than water. Honor your father and mother. And I followed every rule, and the killer was inside the building the entire time, wearing the face of the people who were supposed to be the safe space, using the commandments as a manual for the hunt. The call was coming from inside the house. The boyfriend was the one with the knife, and every survival rule was useless because the predator wrote the rules. 12 years, Lord. 12 years of silence where a family used to be. Not loud violence, the other kind. The kind done with nothing louder than a lock turned from the inside and a refusal to turn it back. The severing so clean and so cold that I've wondered if there's even a scar, or if the surgery was done so long ago that the body just closed around the wound and forgot I was ever attached, like I was the tumor and the removal was the cure and the organism moved on and never felt the phantom limb. And the protocol told them it was self-care. The protocol told them the door shutting was hygiene. The protocol told them that amputating a living son, whose only crime was loving them without running the subroutine first, was a necessary quarantine of a dangerous element. The dangerous element being a man who loved them in his sleep, who loves them still, which is the part one can't explain to anyone, including myself, and I can't even escape it in the dream, Lord. I close my eyes and I'm back at the table and they're smiling and the food is there and it looks like everything is fine, and then I see it. Behind the smiles, the code running, the lock turning, and I wake up in Oak Ridge with the sweat reel and the absence reel and the ache in the center of my chest where the family used to be, absolutely real. And the dream comes back the next night and the next because even sleep has been colonized. Even the unconscious mind isn't safe. There is no room in the house where the protocol doesn't follow. 7. The infection, and this is where I have to tell you something that scares me, Lord, because it changes the shape of everything. It's not just individuals, it's the system, the whole thing. The virus that was once an aberration, something foreign, something that shouldn't have been there, has been inside the host so long that it IS the host now. The sickness isn't an intruder anymore. It's the operating system. The code isn't running on top of the human being, it IS the human being. And I can no longer tell the difference. That's the thing. John Carpenter, 1982. The alien that copies you cell by cell, a perfect replication, indistinguishable from the original. And the copy doesn't even know it's a copy. And there's that scene where they tie everyone to a chair and they heat a wire and they touch it to each man's blood sample to see whose blood screams, whose blood reveals itself as something other than human. That's what every interaction feels like to me now. The blood test, the handshake feels real. The smile looks real. The how are you sounds like an actual question. And then the blood jumps and the mask falls. And what was sitting next to me calling me brother was the protocol wearing a perfect human face. And the thing that keeps me up at night, the thing that makes me wonder if I'm the one who's broken, is this. What if there's nothing underneath to save? What if the virus didn't replace the host? What if it became the host? What if the child I'm trying to reach behind the protocol, the original soul you made, isn't behind anything anymore? What if the code consumed it? What if the dawn I've been waiting for already happened, and I missed it, and this is what's left? And I'm a man holding a lantern searching for a sun that set so long ago the darkness doesn't even remember being lit. You gave them everything, Lord: Torah, law, prophets, philosophy, the Sermon on the Mount, constitutions, the Enlightenment, every tool a civilization would need to resist the protocol, and they took every single one and turned it into a costume. They wear the law like makeup. The Constitution is the frosting on the cake of raw self-interest. Philosophy is the screen saver on the atrocity. And the religion, God forgive me, the religion is the sheath upon the sword. The psychopathy has become permanent. Everything else is wallpaper in the butcher's shop. Was it always this? Was there a time before the protocol when two people could stand in front of each other and just be, without the algorithm running, without the ranking, without the extraction? Was there ever an Eden? Or have I been homesick my entire life for a place that never existed? Because here's what I need to tell you, Lord, and I've been circling it for a while because saying it out loud makes it real. The horror isn't the proud. It isn't the protocol. It isn't the giants or the liars or the tyrants or the machinery of ego running at full speed. Those things I can name. Those things I can fight. I've got scripture and I've got truth and I've got the stubbornness you put in me, and I can stand in front of any of those and not blink. The horror is the loneliness. The horror is the world the protocol built. 7 billion human beings sealed inside glass cases of their own construction, face to face with 1,000 other cases, close enough to touch, and the thing you designed us for, the current that was supposed to flow between us like a river, the communion, the pouring into each other that is literally the point of being alive, is frozen solid. The river is ice, Cocytus, Dante's frozen lake at the bottom of everything. And every man and woman on this planet has their feet locked in it, and the cold has been there since birth, and they think the ice is solid ground. They've never felt the river move. They don't know it was supposed to move. And I walk among them carrying fire, a coal from your altar, and the ice melts under my feet, and I sink, Lord, because the frozen surface won't hold a man who carries warmth. The cold that keeps them upright is the cold that drowns me, and neither of us can reach the other because the medium between us was supposed to be a flowing river, and instead it's a sheet of ice that neither supports my weight, nor lets me swim to them. I am going mad, God. I say that clearly and without drama. I am going mad. I walk down the street and I see the walls, the invisible glass around every person I pass. I sit in a room and I hear the protocol humming underneath the laughter like a generator in a basement. I reach out my hand and it hits glass. Always glass. And on the other side of the glass, someone is dressing their terror in a smile, and I can see them. I can see the child they were before the code was installed, and they're right there, Lord, right there, close enough to touch, and I could give them what they lost, and they could give me what I'm dying for, and neither one of us can find the door because the protocol bricked it up from both sides, Lord. Because I have to be honest with you, and the Zerga protocol requires this. After being stripped and left on the road so many times by so many trusted hands, even I have started to calcify. The caution is building in me. The glass is forming around me too, and that is the horror underneath the horror. It's spreading to me. I'm holding up this cup of everything I am. My broken, honest, unrefined, bleeding love, the only real thing I have, and there is no one on this earth who can afford to drink it, because drinking would require the one thing the protocol will not permit: to be seen, to be known, to be unfit for the performance, to stand without the mask, to say out loud, I am not well. I am a living ghost inside a shell of smiling. I am starving and my plate is full of plastic fruit. And all I want, all I have ever wanted, is to pour myself into another soul and have them pour themselves into me and be made whole by the emptying, the way you made the universe when you gave yourself away in the first act of light. But I can't, and I don't know why. 9, the meek and the ones who try, Lord, the gentle ones, the selfless ones, the meek, they get devoured. That's the mathematics of it, and the math doesn't lie. I've watched tender-hearted people give themselves away until they were translucent, until the light passed through them like a window with no glass, and the proud walked through them without even noticing they'd stepped on a soul. The tender-hearted walked away diminished, and nobody talked about the theft because the theft wore a title. The theft had a corner office. The theft had a vestment and a pulpit and a reputation, And who's going to stand up and say that the king's robe isn't a robe at all, but the flayed skin of everyone who loved him? Nobody says it, because saying it means naming the thing everyone can see, but everyone has agreed to call something else: leadership, conviction, strength of will, when what it has always been, is kill. It kills the ones who love them first, then the ones who serve them. Then, in that ancient repetition that never stops repeating, it kills them. The contrapasso, always the contrapasso. The sword they installed as a spine eventually cuts through the only body it was ever inside. X the double grief, and this is where the grief cuts both directions, Lord. And this is the part that makes me different from the people who just get angry about it and move on. The proud man is not my enemy. He is my patient. He is the tragedy I can't stop watching. He walks into the burning building of his own construction, the coup he's staging against the very God who gave him breath, and he fights the rescue. He bites the hand reaching through the fissure. He kicks against the goad. He calls the medicine poison and the doctor a fraud, and he builds another wall and thanks the small god Yaldabaoth Saklas, whatever you want to call the deity of self-sovereignty. And he seals himself deeper into the blindness and calls it vision, and I weep for him, the way Dante wept walking through hell, wept for the damned even when Virgil told him to stop, even when the architecture of the place said these people chose this. They solved the puzzle. They opened the box with their own hands and walked through the door of their own volition. Even then Dante wept, and I weep, because the men and women frozen in Cocytus, sealed in the ice of their own self-regard, they were children once, Lord. They were soft once. The code hadn't been installed yet. They crawled toward every pair of arms that opened. And here's the barker of it, the horror that has a nursery. The arms that opened were the source. The protocol was loaded in the family. The puzzle box was on the shelf, and the child who opened it didn't open it alone. His mother's hand was on his hand. His father's voice was saying, "This is how you stand. This is how you win. This is how you survive." And the door to hell swung open, and the give and take of human love was replaced by the take and take and take. And the child became the man, became the thing, became the shape, became the giant, became the frozen figure in the lake, beating his wings. And Lord, this is Dante's Satan in Cocytus, frozen to the waist, beating his enormous wings. And the wind from the wings is what keeps the lake frozen. His own struggling is his sentence. His own attempt at flight is what seals the ice. And the one thing that would free him, stopping, surrendering, letting the ice melt, is the one thing the protocol will never allow. He cannot stop, and I cannot make him stop. And I am standing on the shore holding bread nobody wanted, watching him consume himself and call it ambition. 11. The train, I am on a train, God, and it will not stop. I can feel the speed increasing, and I can see the edge, the place where the rails end and the canyon begins. And I am pulling every lever within reach, and every one of them is disconnected. The mechanisms are severed, and the passengers, the proud, the decorated, the convinced, are certain we're arriving at some grand station. They're celebrating, pouring wine, toasting each other, lighting chandeliers, like the revelers in Poe's story, the masquerade in the sealed abbey, while the plague raged outside, dancing through the seven-colored rooms as the ebony clock told the hours, and no one willing to acknowledge the figure moving from chamber to chamber. Red Death, walking among them in a costume so perfect, so beautiful, that everyone assumed it was just another guest. And it wasn't until the final room, the black room with the scarlet windows, that anyone understood the masquerade was never a celebration. It was a funeral. They'd been dead since the music started. That's the train, Lord. The passengers are dead and the party is still going, and the rails are running out and gravity doesn't negotiate. Gravity keeps faith with nothing but the truth, and pride is weightless when the floor gives way. I'm here, God. I see it, and I can't undo what they won't let me undo. 12. The thorn. This is the thorn, Lord. This is the thing you gave me that you won't take back. Not the pride itself. Not my own sin. We've dealt with that, you and I, in darker hours than this. I know my disease. I've named it. I showed you the rot and asked you to burn it, and you burned it. But this other thing, the unanswerable question, the lesson the ones I love refuse to learn. This haunts me the way the heartbeat haunted the narrator in Poe's story. The man who killed the old man and buried him under the floorboards and sat in the chair above the grave, making polite conversation with the police, while the heartbeat got louder and louder and louder until he couldn't hear anything else, and he tore up the planks and screamed his confession because the beating would not stop. That's me, Lord, except the beating under my floorboards isn't guilt. It's the question. Why can't I reach them? Why does the water run off? Why does the seed die on the stone? Why does the wall refuse to become a door? Why does the giant keep eating after everything's gone? The question beats and beats, and I hear it when I'm awake, and I hear it when I'm asleep, and I hear it at work, and I hear it in prayer, and I hear it right now, Lord, underneath every word I'm saying to you. And here's the of it, the part that tells me I'm losing the thread. The more precisely I describe what's happening to me, the more carefully I lay out the evidence, the more controlled and rational my analysis of my own disintegration, the clearer proof it is that the disintegration is real. The order is the madness. The clarity is the disease. The fact that I can articulate the abyss with this much specificity is evidence that I'm falling into it. I don't know, Lord. I don't know why they can't hear. I don't know why the stone won't become soil. I don't know if the prayer I've been praying was meant to stand alone forever in the hallway of your silence, or if my anguish is itself something I need to lay down, not because the war was wrong, but because the war was never mine. The healing, the great reversal, the cracking of the stone, that was always yours to command, and I'm just a man with a watering can in a field of brass, a man with a lantern in a darkness made of glass that keeps reflecting my own face back at me instead of showing me the way. I burn to help, Lord, I burn, and the burning doesn't help. 13 cositis, so I'll keep asking. I'll wear this question like an iron mask that doesn't come off, pressing against my face through every shift, every season, every year. Maybe the asking is the prayer, maybe the not knowing is the faith. Maybe standing here at the edge of Cocytus, the frozen lake, the lowest point of everything, where the proud are sealed in ice they made themselves. Maybe standing here is the whole assignment. Maybe the rod and staff aren't for them. Maybe they're for the one who has to watch. But I need to ask, Lord. I need to keep asking because the alternative is the shrug, and the shrug is the one thing I can't do. So how long the stone? How long the giant feasting on his own children? How long the train, the track, the edge? How long the water on the ledge of the impervious heart, evaporating? How long the bread I bake for them, coming back untouched? How long the glass between me and another human being? How long the protocol turning brothers into brokers and neighbors into ledgers and friends into intelligence operations? How long the house with the horror inside it? How long the dream that won't stop running the code? How long the glasses I can never take off? How long the blood test where everyone's sample jumps? How long the shape walking toward me, steady, unhurried, head tilted, nothing behind the mask because there is nothing behind the mask? How long the puzzle box someone else opened while I'm living in the hell it called up? How long the loneliness? How long this planet of 7 billion frozen figures and not one hand reaching back? How long do I carry what I can't fix? How long this crucifixion between loving the ones who crush and the ones who how long the question, Lord? How long the hushed, holy agony of standing next to a fire I didn't start and can't put out, and the beating under the floor goes on, and on, and on, and on, and on. Tell me, Lord, is there a word I haven't said, a door I haven't broken myself against, a key I haven't tried, a language pride can hear from the inside, a frequency below the frequency of mine, a wine stronger than the wine I've poured, a sword that can cut something that's already dead, or is this the thorn you won't pull, the cup you won't empty, the vigil you require of the ones who see the cliff before the train leaves the track to stand and watch and ache and pray and trust you with the things we can't say have answers, and the morning doesn't come, and the question doesn't stop, and the heart that will not open will not stop. Selah.